Hello and welcome to In Review, the show that looks back at the biggest issues and brings you interviews on subjects that matters to you with various guests. Coming up today, double whammy to Brexit by House of Lords, with the vote and the input by former Prime Minister John Major. But Brexit not stopping some, as Dyson is expanding. Jess Sessions, US Attorney General, pressured to step aside due to dealing with Russian officials. How accountable and transparent are governments of today? President Trump, has he mellowed? Or was he just reading on autocue? Well, Van Jones said he has finally become president. Did he go to Specsavers? More deportation to Jamaica. The youths versus youths, we're still having crime and we're still having these issues. Stormzy, storming through, going to #1 with his first debut album, Awesome. And finally, 200 fines for driving with phone and 6 points. Be careful out there. Joining us today, we have Jen Scott and J-Tab, dynamic and entrepreneurial duo, founders of Hair ID and Hustlin' He Ladies Lunch, HHLL. Not L. Ladies, welcome to In Review.
Thank you for having us.
How are you doing today?
Great.
Are you familiar with what's going on in the world?
Yeah, of course, we live in the world.
Of course, exactly. Now listen, I've got these few topics here which we have been looking at, and the first one is Brexit. Yeah, what we had recently by the Prime Minister was hijacked. Some say hijacked, you know. I call it double whammy by Brexit by the House of Lords, because the House of Lords made that vote to say that Theresa May have to actually give some confirmation or some assurance that EU citizens in the UK need to have the assurance that they can stay before.
Sure.
What's your thoughts about that?
I think everybody's grappling for some security, some concrete answer as to what's happening. And so that's being borne out in that, you know, in that false answer that people are asking Theresa May to come up with. You know, there are so many people living here that are from various other states in the EU, and it's a very uncertain time for them. And so for them, this, you know, this is their life. This is very, you know, it's indicative of what they're going to do in the next few years. A lot of people have families, they have, you know, friends, they have whole communities which straddle across various states in the EU, and so it's a massive thing for people, and so you can understand why that pressure was there for her to say, you know, what certainty can you offer to people that are already here in the UK?
But Jen, one of the House of Lords members said, you guys are spending so much time on looking out for foreigners than for the British people who actually voted for Brexit, and you're actually stalling the process. We had former Prime Minister John Major also saying Brexit is not good. People are saying now he's an unelected person, even though he was a former Prime Minister. Do you think Brexit is on the right track? This is the right track for the UK? Just your perception, just your view.
I mean, we have nothing to compare it against. We have nothing, there's no benchmark. You know, the negotiators are almost going in blind. They, you know, they're making up as they go along.
Yes.
And I think this is why there is so much dragging of feet, there's so much stalling. But I think the real thing that we all need to remember is that it's people we're dealing with here. You know, there's people's lives at stake, there's people that hang in the lurch, people that don't know what to do. And, you know, as I said, these people are not bargaining chips.
Now, you're into business as well. I mean, Hair ID, and you deal a lot with the European mainland as well. Do you see Brexit then as a factor which will hinder your business, or you'll see something that will progress your business?
It's, for us, regardless of what is going to happen, we're very dynamic in that sense where we will make a way regardless. The first business, Hair ID, was born out of the recession, and Brexit for us, it's just another, you know, reason for us to step up and step out and do, you know, get a bit more creative.
In speaking to you privately, you mentioned that your business was birthed out of recession. So therefore, nothing really will stop you then.
No, not at all. I think the industry that we're in is to an extent recession-proof, and financial ups and downs, the impact isn't so hard-hitting.
Yes.
Of course, it has an impact, and we felt the impact of, you know, the value in the pound dropping. We felt that. within the business.
Yes.
But people, consumers are, you know, they're looking for these luxuries, these things in life that they can enjoy. There's so much doom and gloom. There's, you know, you turn the news on every day and the stories are endless. They're back-to-back negativity. And so the industry that we're in, actually, that creates some sort of escapism for people.
Right.
And so to an extent, that's why I said that, you know, for us, our business is recession-proof. And yes, it was born out of the recession, but that was us recognising that the corporate market wasn't able to offer us what we needed. And so because the corporate market felt that, you know, it felt the tremors, it felt the effects of the recession, we needed to think, what market can we go into where there's that protection, where there's that level of security, where, you know, we might be shaken a bit, but it's not going to break us.
And that was before the advent of Brexit and referendum that's been going on. So this is just another phase, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Well, that's powerful because, I mean, Dyson, the technology company, what they're doing is undergoing a dramatic expansion in the UK, opening a new 210-acre, 507 campus as a part of a 2.5 billion investment. I mean, that's powerful in the world of Brexit, isn't it?
It is. But I think that's just, it's refreshing to hear that, because I think there is so much focus put on the negativity of the situation, when in actual fact, it's just another opportunity to step up, to do better, to do more. And he's leading the way in doing that, you know, by saying, I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to let this affect me, and actually I'm going to push and power forward. That's huge. And I think that's a great example for entrepreneurs to look at and say, actually, well, if he can do it, so can I.
So it's a mindset factor, isn't it?
It is, most definitely.
It is.
So what do you, okay, there are two ways we could say this. Uncharted waters bring forth uncharted disasters or uncharted opportunities. Which one would you say?
Opportunities.
Opportunities.
Definitely. It's how you look at it and how you move forward and develop and grow. And we've never been ones to sit there and think, oh, you know, woe is me, there's this obstacle, how am I going to get over that? You know, it's just got to be done. You have to be a bit more strategic, be a bit more creative, be innovative, and push through. And that's it.
And that's what those obstacles do. They push you to your outer limit, to be that creative mind and be that creative driving force, to, you know, to tap into those uncharted markets with something which is completely it's unheard of.
Listen, this is fantastic, because that's why I keep saying all the while, we don't need professionals or persons or politicians. Everybody's got a view on this whole thing, which is important. Now, we're going to take a quick trip over to the States now. And one of the things that the U.S. Attorney General is pressured to step aside due to dealing with Russian officials. And there's some sort of discussion or explanation as to what he really said. But my point is, do you think government today are accountable and transparent?
Transparency has always been a problem. I think the higher up in power you go, whether it's in a small organisation or whether it's a government that you're looking at, transparency is something which is needed, something which is necessary, but not something which is at the forefront of business, of government. And so it's not surprising that this has come out. It's really not surprising because scandals have been coming out for years in terms of people saying one thing to the cameras and to the press and to the public, and knowing that behind the scenes they've got this, this old boys club where they're going to keep each other's secrets. And now, people are starting to question things a bit more, and that inquisition that goes into things, whether it comes from, those top levels or whether it's the person that, hacks into somebody's computer and finds something that actually they shouldn't have found. Things are becoming more transparent, but there's a long way to go.
And Jen, you shake your head easily like that without even thinking.
Yeah, just because I'm almost waiting for someone to say, the end, this, the film's over, it's done. Because, this
You're being punked.
This must be a joke. And I think for me, the scary thing is that we're almost becoming numb to the lies. We're almost becoming numb to the conspiracies, and it's just part and parcel of what Trump is all about now, and that for me is scary. But lying to be okay, for these things to just, for us to just sort of turn a blind eye to in government, the people that lead the country, that's scary.
So we're talking about the big Trump factor now, and in regards to the recent speech that he had to both houses, people are saying that he is now mellowed, you know what I mean? Or some are saying, well, he's just reading a good autocue.
Yeah. Can you even see though what we're talking about? The fact that he's now, you know, being more human, or we're talking about the president of one of the, you know, the most powerful country, you know, and this is what we're focusing on. To me, it's just mind-blowing. And, you know, the fact that we continuously are just picking this man apart, it's just, he shouldn't, why is he even there, you know? And it just really amazes me, and it's... Because
one of his key critique, which is Mr. What's his name, Van Jones, is saying he finally became president that night.
He became president of the United States in that moment, period.
At the recent speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying Van wear glasses, but I think maybe he didn't have space or so, you know what I mean? But you said something really powerful, Jen, was that we're talking about the leadership of the powerful world, and the focus now is on these petty little things, petty but serious things, driving in a car with an autocue, and I mean, we have missed the big picture, isn't it?
And this is it, exactly. And I think going back to Van, when, you know, I listened to an interview he'd done, and he was saying that, you know, yes, he said what he said, but, you know, there are good presidents, there's bad presidents, and then there's Trump.
Good president, bad president,
and then
that's a class of himself.
Yeah, and, you know, and that's literally it, you know, and I think he was saying that he said that, you know, because this is something new for him. He's changing his strategy now.
Yes.
And I think his point in the interview was actually we need to be a bit more aware now that, you know, he's sort of wised up a bit, and this might be another way to sort of tap in and, you know, capture the, you know, people in a way that he hasn't already.
Yes.
So I think it's just his way of saying wise up. Maybe could have said it a bit better. But yeah, it's just...
I mean, Trump is so divisive. All of his speeches, everything that he says it for the shock factor. And so as much as this is completely different to what he's done before, the shock factor has still been achieved. And so you have to recognize that, and you have to see, okay, what is his end aim? What is the end game? He's a businessman at the end of the day.
Exactly.
You know, we haven't had a president before with that background, with that business background. And so it's very strategic. Nothing is done without forethought.
Yes.
And so we have to recognize that.
So therefore, you're waiting for something to come out and say, you're fired. Or like a big picture come out, you're being punked or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It can't be true.
Well, I guess we got 4 to 8 years of all of this happening.
Exactly.
And Brexit as well. So therefore, a lot of media houses will be in job, and they're happy about it, even though they're being banned left, right, and center. Another big story for the Caribbean community, is that a mass deportation charter flight is set to remove people en masse from the UK to Jamaica on the 8th of March 2017. And Lee Jasper, who is saying we need to get out there, lobby MPs, and find out what is happening as well. I mean, you're familiar that there was some recently, and it keeps saying happening, and they're calling it secret flight. Is it a secret flight or what?
I think there is an element of secrecy.
Yeah.
If you dig for it, you'll find it out. But I think these flights are happening week on week, you know, whether it's one person, 2 people. It's not necessarily a plane full of people that they're deporting all the time. This is a constant issue which is happening, and it's affecting people's lives. You know, people are being taken away from their families, their businesses. You know, people set up lives here in the UK. And so it's a very real problem.
But at the same time, we're talking about a situation whereby persons are not regularized, or they don't have their stay, so therefore they're saying they're illegal immigrants. What should the country do in that situation? Or what should the state do when they're talking about trying to live up to policies? Because the Labour Party will say, well, the government has not succeeded in bringing immigration down to tens of thousands, and yet at the same time, they're the same one will be criticizing to say you're being unfair. What's your thoughts on that, Anne?
I think it really boils down to what contribution is, you know, and I think that's what it, you know, we really have to look at. I mean, these are people that you're talking about that have, you know, from our grandparents, and we basically built, you know, Britain that we know today. So I think to now take someone out of the environment that they've been born into, this is all they know, and you know, make them go back to something they don't, regardless of whether they're from there or not. You know, it's how fair is that, really?
Yeah. Well, you know, the former High Commissioner, Aluna Sambal, one of the things she said a lot when she was here, she said, persons like yourself, for argument's sake, are children of first generation Jamaican. Like myself, I came here, so I have my parents here. They're saying that persons like yourselves need to actually look at your parents or grandparents' passport papers to make sure that they're legal, because many years ago they came as British subjects, but then the law has changed along the way, and so that is something, because one would say there's a lack of ignorance in some way regarding why persons are not regularized, because people go to the Caribbean and to Jamaica, and when they're ready to come back,
there's issues.
issues
I
there.
think definitely there is that lack of awareness, that ignorance is definitely there.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it is born out of fear, that fear of, you know, not wanting to, if you ask a question, then what kind of worms are you opening? What, you know, what could come from that simple question? Do I have, you know, the right to stay? And I think there are even cases where people have been under the illusion or been told that they have that indefinite right to stay, and actually when it comes down to it, they're still faced with that deportation. And so it's definitely about finding out what the current status is of people within your family, and it has to start from us. We have to do this ourselves and take control, and finding out, you know, if they're not regularized, what can we do to, you know, to get that status and to get that protection for them, because people don't want to be uprooted and go to a life which they don't know.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this one, you know what I mean, because at the same time they're saying that the legal fees to regularize their stay is so much. So when you hear the legal fees need to regularize, that means to say an economic factor plays a part. So therefore, should the community then be having a pool of funds or so to help persons to get that legal aid? Because you're not going to get legal aid for immigration and stuff like that. You know? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll keep following up on this one. Now, youth versus youth. I brought this one up because there's a recent stabbing again, which is happening. Paul Mackenzie, I don't know if you've seen that video. Good mate of mine, and it's one can look at it and say, wow, this is a daunting thing, man. This is like, wow, you grew up in this country, you're a youth in this country. What would you say is the difference now? Is there any difference, or just because you were brought up, or you have to say, brought up seriously?
That video is very scary. It's very real. It's going to be a big shocker for a lot of people, I think. I think his reasoning behind it is commendable. It's a no-brainer. You can see the reality in what he's saying in terms of what drove him, what was the driving force, in terms of wanting to do that and wanting to put that out there. Because it will make some parents think, hold on a minute, that sounds familiar in terms of, you know, the behaviour of their children and things like that. And it all starts at home. You know, I couldn't go out and come in with so much as a hairband that Janine gave me, because my mum would march me back round and tell me to give it back to her. You know, there has to be that level of accountability. Exactly. And it's really about being accountable, making sure that you know what, you know, your children, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, what they're doing, because it's scary. It's a scary time. And I think things have changed. Social media has changed things completely. You know, when we grew up, it was literally you go home and you might phone someone up if your mum hasn't put a bar on the telephone, and you talk about what happened in your small community. But, you know, social media, the internet, everything's worldwide. And so people are really being taunted by what they see. They don't see the struggles, they don't see the hard work that goes behind it, and they just see the end goal. And so if someone's presenting something to, you know, a child who is ignorant, they're naive, they just think, they're not weighing up the consequences of their behaviour, the possible impacts that it can have on their lives. You can see how they can be drawn in.
And also, we're looking at the men right there, the men factor there, but then there's another video also, I don't know if you saw it, with a little girl actually had the knife, was about to stab another girl. And when you look at it, it was so sneaky. The person who did the video, actually, maybe they didn't saw that girl, but they saw the knife coming, and some teachers coming by. And so therefore, it's not just boys, black boys, it's girls as well. They are saying that girls are sometimes easy to move the guns or move the knife because they are not that susceptible.
They're more susceptible. No, definitely. I think it's a real problem for boys and girls. I think there's a difference in terms of age as well.
Yes.
So age plays a factor. You know, social status as well. Social, in terms of people's, okay, let me say that again.
Yeah.
So I think social status as well in terms of, you know, finances.
Yeah.
That has a big part to play as well. And
Yes.
it's not black and white. It's a lot of the time driven by financial restraints and people wanting that money but not being able to get it themselves.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on that one, but finally, Stormzy or Stormzy, right? Right? I mean, that's a good product. That's a good product of the community at the same time, isn't it?
Definitely.
Absolutely amazing. I'm so proud.
Number one.
Of
Yeah.
number one
Yeah.
album. I'm so proud of Stormzy, and I think everyone is. Just the way the whole community were behind him was absolutely amazing to witness and to be a part of. And he is leading the way. He is pioneering, and he is the mouthpiece and the spokesperson for youth culture. And for me,
And he's a great inspiration as well.
Most
to what is
definitely.
needed, even though they tried to arrest him in his own house.
I know, imagine.
absolutely ridiculous.
Well, when you get him, tell him that you're on the show and that we want to interview you. Yeah? And finally, when you're driving, do you put your phones aside?
It's my worst
Yes.
habit. I don't.
Are you sure you want to put that
I
aside?
know, really, it's my worst habit, but this has made me think
Yes.
twice now.
Yes.
You know, luckily I've never been caught,
Yes.
but you know, it is dangerous. It is very,
Yes.
very dangerous, and I just, this has been my wake up call. And
£200 and 6
Yeah.
points for driving. And what they're saying, don't even have it, don't
On
have
your
your phone
hand,
in hand. And if you're going to use it, turn off the engine. Even if you stop, turn off the
Yeah.
engine, take your
key
keys
out,
out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're not driving.
But the key, if you watch that video
Oh,
where the chap
that is just,
clown,
that is,
that was a real
yeah.
reality shock.
That's what they need to continuously show people,
Yes.
because I think that is so horrible to
Yes.
see that. And, you know, the man himself is a victim and he has to live with that for the rest of his life. I mean, I don't mean he's a victim in the sense that he didn't know what was happening. He knew what he was doing. He knew the implications of what was happening. But we have to really think, forget the £200, forget the 6 points on your license. These are people's lives.
Yes.
And we have to recognise that.
And ladies and gentlemen, one of the best ways to deal with it is put your phones in the glove box away so you can't hear it, and turn it off, because guess what? Years ago, what used to happen?
Yeah.
Until you go home, you make a call.
Exactly.
Even A
It's
to
so
Z. And
true,
all the,
yeah.
how did we use A to Z all those times?
I don't
You
even
stop on the
know.
side,
Yeah,
A to Z?
map your route out before.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's all
Well,
planning.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jay and Jen. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, see you next time on In Review.